right.
Bring us on.
Yeah, I like that, right?
Mr.
All right.
Chair, I make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented with the amendment for the fiscal year indigent defense grant application.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, first we have commissioners' reports, credit cards, and invoices.
When
Any,
you get to the invoice part, I have one for you.
okay. Any concerns on the commissioners' report, or
No, I was good.
there's, we're paying for pregnancy test in juvenile detention. I just, when I run across that, I'm like, wow.
Yep.
And then they must have had an accident with one of the tractors up at the event center. There's a deductible $2,500, which I hadn't heard anything at all.
Mandatory safety.
Okay.
Maybe Ryan will
Yeah.
mention that in his update.
Invoices. Most of these invoices are to build the office over at Conflict.
It's okay. Get it running. Get it done. Well, what I'm afraid of, I was reading a thing the other night talking about just trials nationally. Good to know we're not the only ones that are having to deal with this.
All right, Christie, you got another one?
So the invoice I have is the Go Out Local that was discussed last week, or was it Tuesday? I don't remember.
It was last week. last Thursday,
For
I think.
the concert that we're going to pay for. It was discussed to utilize ARPA funds for this. Is that where we would like to code that?
What's that
Also, so I need the coding on it, and then also,
Trust.
I am hoping, because we need that check today.
Because we're funding the trust, and then it's gonna get paid out of the line item in the trust, or are we just paying it straight directly from?
I thought we were going to pay it straight directly from. So if we were to utilize that 10 million in general county operations monies from ARPA funds, then what I'm still trying to work out how I've got to report versus how we'll pay bills from. My initial thought was within that grant, what I would do is just set up a line that said general county operations, and then that is where we would pay, and the budget would be 10 million, and then that is where we would pay like this invoice and then anything else that would fall under that category. And then we could pull, for the other 7.5 million, we would have a line item for like the DCI, is that what it's called? The command center,
Oh,
whatever
yeah,
that
disaster
is.
response.
Training
DRC.
center.
DRC.
Dang it, I got the D in there this
Yeah.
one. Anyway, we'd have a budget for it separate, we'd have a budget for the sewer separate, and then we'd have a budget for the forensic pathologist separate.
I'm thinking this can come out of the 7 million.
Because it has
Economic development.
Yeah.
My only concern with that is I'm not as comfortable with how I would report that. The 10 million's a easier one, although I don't have reporting due until July. That should give me time to look at it.
Let's figure
And I can
out.
always do a code correct.
Okay.
So what I'll do is I'll just, if that's where you wanted to pay it from, is that 10 million, then,
I was
or I
thinking,
mean, not
The
10 million, the
seven.
ARPA money, then I can just pay it out of there, and then we can figure that part out.
I was thinking if we could do it out of the 7 and like those economic lines and stuff like that, because I think there's going to be, and this is, I think it was a NACO thing that somebody sent out, is there's a lot of that stuff that a lot of counties and entities are having a hard time to, like, some of those lines of coming up with, like, the projects to do. So, and so the one thing that I saw that said, if you can get it into those, try to get it, those are the ones that, because those are the ones that you may or may not have a, there's a lot of people that are thinking that that there's not even going to be a way to you know, those counties won't even have a way to spend it, so they're just gonna have, because they don't have a project,
Well,
so.
how about if we just pay it out of ARPA, if
Figure out.
that's what you would like?
And then we can
And
just do a
then-
code change.
When we'll do an ARPA meeting here hopefully in the next month
Yes, please.
and figure out where things will fit and even the projects you've already thought about, then we can like assign those out.
That's what I'd like to do.
Yeah.
And
My
then
thoughts.
also figure out how we're gonna account for them within, I can give you a proposal and then you can say
Well,
yes or no.
And that's the other thing too, is like, just seeing as, I think a lot of counties are gonna start, you're gonna see it in the next 60 days, because everybody has to report. You're gonna start
Well-
seeing hopefully how people are, you know, and they said there's been some more direction from Treasury and some of the other offices of yes, no.
And I did my April 30th report, but
Mhm.
of course we had nothing yet. So I
Okay.
slacked on it and didn't have any allocations and I didn't have to look anything up. But I'm gonna have to get to that point within the next quarter probably.
Well, and that's the whole thing, is I just don't wanna have a, if there's any way we can maximize that, that's just
Yes,
what we wanna
the
do.
7.5 we definitely wanna use first almost because general operations is easy to spend. But the other request I have is to produce a manual check on this because they need the funds today.
Okay, yep.
So if you could all sign it and then allocate it as a manual check, I'll get a copy of it to,
Do you want to do a
do we still do
motion for that, or
resolutions
we
for
okay
manual
just to?
checks?
It'll just be part of the, it should just be part
It's
of
just
the.
part of the invoices.
Okay, all right. I just didn't know what you're doing the manual check. I want to do that.
Manual check should be in part of the invoices and manual checks.
Because that won't show up on next week's
Yep.
commission report, but I need that one so that I can get it processed. Thank you.
We good?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the commissioner's invoices as presented.
We have motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have salary rate approval forms. Go ahead and start with whatever pile you want. Tell you, I have a tough time signing these.
As long as I have two, they're effective.
Hey, I started reading about, and I was talking to Jason about it, something that we were talking, Christy, about last week. I started researching a bunch of that retention incentive pays and actually cost savings and how some of those things, like, I think we need to start looking at that. Because actually they found it lowered the base wage, but then they did their incentives for like weekend shift differential, some of the other stuff, and they actually said that their retention, the one thing I was reading, it increased their retention and general overall job satisfaction ratings for those positions based upon those shift differentials for weekend nights, how it was. And it was kind of funny. I was like, yeah. So I'm gonna keep reading on it and see if I can find it. But we gotta do something because everybody, again, this is not a, now interest rates did hit, I think they're at 5 3/4 today. You're gonna watch housing market collapse.
So who made these forms?
Which ones?
All
The
these
stipends?
salary.
The stipends are office bid. Bobette, Road and Bridge might have done landfills, but we did D6, and then
They all
Teresa did
have
hers.
Ernie R. Moser.
Gotta find which.
I had Ernest R. as my,
Which one are you looking at?
all three of them. They're
Don't you,
all-
don't you use
all
don't you use the middle initial?
I'll let Peter know.
I just-
Hey,
I just thought, I've seen Ernest R. a couple of times, but Ernie R., I haven't seen that forever.
Well, and I gave Peter a hard time because she had D6 drug court, and I'm like, drug court's not D6. D6 is its own, drug court's its own.
Yeah.
She's like, well, that's what my spreadsheet said. I said, it's not the same.
It's wrong.
And she had share grant, and I said, share's not a grant, it's in the general fund. She's like, ugh. So,
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve salary rate approval forms as presented.
Have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
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 Tara, you missed one.
Oh, did I? What else we got?
Then we have the signature on the defense grant.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the fiscal year 2023 assistance grant for public defense as presented.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 I will be submitting that. Dave's putting together one more narrative.
Yeah.
We sent that to Jared Ricks yesterday, and he had a couple questions, so we addressed, well, Dave addressed those, and then upon those recommendations, then I will get that submitted either this afternoon, tomorrow, or Monday the latest.
Okay.
And then as soon as we can get a clean copy for your records, we will.
We're good for till 9:30?
That'll be it.